What's going on, everybody? Welcome in Wager Alarm live stream. I'm your host, Howard Bender. With me here, very close, up close and personal here, Craig Mish. Let me take a step back here. Craig Mish, everybody. What's going on, Craig? I gotta tell you, man, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good.
We have had a great season. We really have. I mean, I hate to jinx it here. We're 8 weeks in, and we are doing well. We are doing really well. I mean, I don't know what else to say. I mean, you never know with this sort of thing because in the end, you're giving your opinion, and a lot of people have opinions, certainly both on wagering, college, and pro football. And I don't want to sound like I'm surprised because I'm not, and I've participated in contests like this in the past, and my percentage is kind of right where it's been. But I gotta say, you have done a really good job over the last couple of weeks selling me on a couple of picks that you liked in the NFL, and strictly just based on outcome alone, a lot of them have come in. So that's kind of the thing with wagering is that it could be very easy for me, and there was one pick, which we'll get to, in the NFL last week that I actually there were two picks, but one really that I didn't like, and we didn't go with it. But part of it is understanding that if you have a partner and you're getting opinions, but you have to understand and you have to be willing to make adjustments. I could easily just say, or have said at the beginning of the season, oh no, we're going to go with my opinions and my opinions only on this, that, and the other. But you follow the game just as much as I do, and you follow the injury reports and everything that's going on. And especially, I would say, over the last couple of weeks, you fired off some really good against the spread picks. And in the NFL, it's shown because we are 8-2 in the Super Contest. That's 80% the last 2 weeks, 57.9% for the season in the Super Contest, which puts us in the hunt for the money. And in college football, I mean, we've done this, I think, 8 weeks. I think we've only had 2 weeks where we've been below 500. So if people have followed the picks all season long, they've done a good job, and it's good. It's something to build on.
It's definitely something to build on. Listen, and that's definitely the key to working with a partner here is that you know each other's strengths and weaknesses. I defer, 100% of the college picks to you? Only because, listen, I didn't grow up in a college football environment. It just wasn't like that for me growing up. And I went to a Div 3 school. So it wasn't about, college football, and I never got bit by that bug. I mean, do I follow the game? Yes. Do I follow the game enough where I'm comfortable making picks? No. If you throw stuff out to me, then I research it. Then I look at data. Then I look at film, video, whatever. I don't know. Just show my age there for a second. But either way, that's the case. And I know that we've talked a lot about this, and you can find strategy articles over on WagerAlarm.com that just point you towards different ways to look at it, different things you do. The whole stay within your conference, stay within what you know has been crucial for me in a lot of my college football betting this season here because I'm experimenting with it and I'm putting in what we're doing. And yeah, you're right. It's working out extremely well for us. So let's just get to it here. Let's talk about what happened this weekend here for us? Because I got to tell you, man, seriously, your call for Navy with the points.
That was a bad game.
It was a horrible game. But your rationale for taking the points was key and absolutely crucial in this. So
it's a lesson for a lot of people, I think, especially with a team like Notre Dame.
I got to plug in, so you keep talking. I'll plug.
Okay. Especially for a team like Notre Dame. And what we said last Friday on the live stream, and the word is it's not anecdotal. It's kind of universal, where what people don't really understand about the military academies, I think, is there's just so much more that these kids have to do than just play football. Everyone just thinks, oh, you're going to Army, Navy, Air Force, and you just play football and that's it. I mean, these kids, toward the end of football seasons, are studying for their finals. They are doing their military work. It is incredible what these kids go to. And universally in college football, the coaches on the other side, they respect that. And the players respect it too. When they go head-to-head, Army, Navy, historically, is one of the most watched games of the entire college football season. There's a reason, Howard, when Army plays Navy, in a month from now, there's no other game that day. It's the only game. Army versus Navy, and they announce the Heisman Trophy winner that night. That's all they do. And the reason why is because of the respect factor that you have to have for the military. So what happens? How can you take advantage of this betting? What happens is teams shut down. They stop. When they have big leads against the military academy, they don't want to embarrass them. Don't get me wrong. You can have a running back for Notre Dame on the other team run through the middle and score a 50-yard touchdown. That can happen in any college football game. But you're not going to see them going for it on 4th and 1. You're not going to see them throwing long bombs. And that game last week, our first pick was Navy plus 24 against Notre Dame. And the score was, I think, 16-0 or 19-0 at the half. And what happened in the second half? Notre Dame took their foot off the pedal. Army put in a backup quarterback. They started driving. They scored a couple of touchdowns. Notre Dame just started running the ball. They scored another touchdown. And then fourth and less than one in the fourth quarter with 5 minutes to go. And Notre Dame on Army's 45 just punted back to Army, and the game ended. And they covered. And it was like, okay, it was the worst possible scary game to bet on. You're sweating the whole entire time. The Notre Dame's not just going to run up the gut and score a 50-yard touchdown, but it's just something to learn, especially when you're getting a big line with a military academy against a team, and a team like Notre Dame that's universally accepted and known as a respectful religious team, or whatever the case, however you feel about that. Bottom line is that's why I went with it. You can go back and watch the live stream last week, and luckily Navy covered that line, so that was the first win.
That was when it all went down and when it happened, I was laughing so hard because all I just heard was you say, "Coaches, it's an unspoken rule. Coaches don't run up the score on the military," and it worked out beautifully. So congratulations to you for making that call. And just, yeah, definitely. Now, win number 2, also a good solid one. It was pretty easy for us. Florida International.
They were up 28-3. They took their foot off the pedal. It was never really close. FIU, Florida International, is a good. In fact, I would consider looking at them the rest of the season. They are on a roll right now. Butch Davis is the head coach of that team. Who knows what's really going on there? But the bottom line is that when he coaches a team, he can coach them up. He did it at Miami. He did it at the beginning when he was with North Carolina until he got in some trouble there. But I think that Butch Davis is putting himself back in a position to be a big coach in college football again, just like Lane Kiffin did last year with FAU. FAU took a little bit of a step back this year. But FIU is now the one, very small school, south in Miami, but a lot of athletes that didn't make it into some other places are now playing at Florida International. And Western Kentucky is one of the big disappointments in college football. So bottom line, FIU was win number 2, and that was a relatively easy one as well.
All right. Now, the one that we lost was our over-under call here.
Yeah,
and
that was a tough one.
It was the Oklahoma State game. And I mean,
okay, so I'll lay it out. Okay, so the bottom line in this game was, and I didn't prepare enough for the game flow of the game. What happened is this game looked over in terms of a loss in the first 10 minutes of the game. I think it was 24-7 after the first quarter. And there's something else that you can do, which is really smart. If you're watching a game, like I was watching that game, I was like, a really good bet is the under in the second half. Because even though I thought this game we were going to lose it in terms of the over 62, I just knew that there was no way that they could keep up that pace. And lo and behold, Howard, that thing slowed down to a crawl in the second half. In fact, so much that the total was at 59 with 4 minutes to play in the game. The total was at 59, and Oklahoma State had the ball 3rd and goal from the 8 on Texas. Now remember, if Oklahoma State doesn't get it, they kick a field goal, forces Texas to have to score a touchdown to win. If they don't, the game's over. We win. Okay? So it really was that close at the end of the game. We ended up losing, but in a handicap, if you're taking this thing down right to the last few minutes, and it could be a win or a loss, you never know what could happen. We'll get into that in the NFL. So the handicap was wrong. It was a loss, but you don't feel terrible about it because you were close in the end, and that's the job that you're doing. So I think this is our 3rd straight week of back-to-back 2-1s. which makes us 6-3 over the last 3 weeks in college football. And overall for the season, we're up a few units. You can't ask for more than that.
No, listen, I've been very happy with the way our college games have been going. Definitely credit to you on a number of these. Let's talk about a couple of college lines. Some interesting games. I'm going to be in Vegas tomorrow, Craig.
Time to make it happen.
So why don't I legitimately put more money where my mouth is here, and let's talk about where I'm laying action tomorrow, Craig. What college games am I looking at right now?
Well, I mean, I think this week is one of those weeks you got to be really careful because you got a lot of the big games.
No. Mortgage payments, Okay. No, I'm kidding.
Okay. Let's be honest. Saturday night at 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock Vegas time, it's the biggest college football game of the season. And there is not anything close. This is like when Ohio State plays Michigan. This is here in Florida. In the old days when Florida would play Florida State, those two teams, one of them would go to the championship. This is it. LSU is one of the best teams in the last 20 years against the spread at home at night. It's called Death Valley in LSU. They usually win, and they usually cover. In fact, some of Alabama's losses through the years, even when they won the title, was losing at LSU. But, Howard, this year, Alabama, the number one team in the country, when they normally go to LSU, they're 6-point favorites. I've seen 2s. I've seen 7s. Alabama's minus 14 at LSU. I mean, LSU, Howard, is in the playoff right now in the top 4, and Alabama's minus 14.
I mean, is this begging you to take LSU in the points? Begging you.
I mean, I can't believe it. I guess I have to believe it because Alabama scores on every single possession this season. It's incredible what they've been able to accomplish. But my gosh, is LSU just going to get rolled by Alabama at home? I mean, I can't believe it. But either way, man, that is it's the game of the week. I love this rivalry between these two teams. Usually what happens, by the way, in this game is that both teams don't do well the next week. Both teams are like fight, they punch each other in the mouth for like 4 quarters, all the old Gruden Monday Night Football sayings. They're going to slug it out. And then the next week, these two teams like stink. Like they're just so beat after playing each other. Great game. I hope you get to watch it Saturday night. It'll be 5 o'clock there. Notre Dame coming off that win. They're in the Final Four. Notre Dame will be at Northwestern. Northwestern coming off a very big win. Notre Dame is laying 9.5 points. There's always going to be points slanted toward Notre Dame. A lot of people think that this could be an upset for Northwestern this week, but they've been really inconsistent, so I'm not willing to go there yet. My Gators went down to Georgia last week. Very sad. Florida got pounded in the second half. They just ran right through them. The Gators still have had a good year. Hopefully they get to a decent bowl game. So they lose to Georgia. So here we are. The winner of this game Saturday is going to play the winner of Alabama-LSU. It's going to be Alabama probably, hypothetically. So Kentucky's had the magical season. They come back in the last second and beat Missouri last week. It was insane. Kentucky's only lost 1 game all year. I don't know how they've done it. Everyone thinks they're going to get waxed this week. Georgia minus 9 at Kentucky. If Georgia wins and Alabama beats LSU, it sets Georgia up to play Alabama in the SEC championship game. Georgia will need to win that game, and they would be in the Final Four. If they lose, they're out. Would only see one SEC team in the Final Four this year, and that would be Alabama.
That's a lot going on there. So talk to me here. Like, I mean, I'm very tempted to just,
Not yet. Well,
no,
we gotta wait. We gotta wait a couple days.
I don't tease LSU with the points and
tease. No,
take Kentucky with the points too.
No.
Don't be an idiot, Howard.
By the time Saturday comes along, and you know what? I should have better ones by tomorrow. Honestly. No.
Of course. Listen.
Hold on.
Yeah, you put me like in Vegas. You put me on the strip in Vegas. It's like taking a fat kid and just putting him in Dylan's candy store in New York City with a credit card and just say, go to town.
There you go. FIU plays FAU this week. Lay the points. FAU minus 3.5. It's called the Shula Bowl, by the way. That game.
Oh, Dan or Mike?
Don Shula.
Don or Dan?
They named it after him, after Don Shula.
Of course they did. They certainly weren't naming it after Mike Shula. All right, so Alabama, LSU, Notre Dame at Northwestern, Georgia, Kentucky, 3 that we're just kind of watching for fun, though. It doesn't sound like you feel too confident in me.
No, I may have to take LSU. I mean, that's just at home. That's just no respect for LSU at all.
I feel like it's a possibility for us, no doubt about it. All right, before we get to the NFL, let me give a shout out to our sponsor, our friends over at BetQL. Guys, you want an edge over Vegas this season? Download BetQL. It's the only app you need to make smarter bets. With BetQL, you can track line movement, see which team the public backs. You can discover trending bets of the day, all right from your device. Craig, do they have a 5-star pick yet?
You know what? I can take a look for you right now here and see. Let me pull it up. I'm checking this thing all day long. I should probably know that. Let's see. Recommendations. You want to go college or NFL?
Either one. I just want to know a 5-star one that they got.
All right. Here we go. We got 4-star in college football, Ohio State, minus 17.5.
Mm-hmm.
And in the NFL, if you download the BetQL app, you will see nothing in the NFL yet.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. They're waiting to watch this live stream and see who you and I are taking. No doubt about it. Guys, BetQL is free to download from your Apple or Android device.
And the NBA, too. They, you know what? Let me look at the NBA. Let me give it an NBA to play tonight.
All right, you give out the NBA. I'm going to tell everybody to head over to fantasyalarm.com/BetQL. It's time to start making smarter bets and beating the odds makers. Again, download the app, get started, fantasyalarm.com/BetQL. You're taking way too much time from
Sacramento. The game already started. It's too late. Sorry.
Yeah, right. Thanks. It was a great one, Johnny Come Lately. Super.
Take the game. Take him in the second half.
Yeah. You know what? Hey, do me a favor. For week 8, let's take Seattle.
All right, done. Too late.
I always did that. When we were sitting there, we were talking on Friday before that. I was like, can we just take Texas, Houston, and just lay the points right now? Can we do it? Can we? We didn't need to. Why? Because, again, as Craig said, we went 4-1 this week, following up last week's 4-1, 8-2 in our last 10 games, 80%. And as Craig said, we are right now, we are at 648 in the Super Contest, which has over 3,100 entries in there right now.
Pretty impressive.
So, super cool. Love that. Want to keep the momentum rolling here, but let's talk about the games that we did. Now, first of all, we got a little lucky.
A lot lucky, yeah. That's okay, though. Listen, you're going to have bad luck and good luck. The point is that later on in the season, and we're going to have bad luck, we're going to have a bad beat, we're going to lose a game, and this is when you remember, well, we did win that game, and that kind of made up for it.
Well, Todd Gurley slid down at the 2-yard line.
God bless you, Todd Gurley. Everyone's upset with Todd Gurley. We love Todd Gurley.
Did you hear his comments afterwards?
I did. He
specifically said, don't care about the gamblers.
Yeah, Vegas, fantasy. He's like, I got to take a mulligan this week. And look, Gurley's very fantasy friendly, so we love him. Look, bottom line is Green Bay plus 9.5 was the most picked game in the Super Contest by a wide margin last week. In fact, after we picked the game, I was reading columns about betting online saying that this was the worst pick of the year. It was the sucker bet to take all those points with Green Bay because eventually the Rams were just going to roll them. And you know what? The first half I felt real good. Second half I felt real bad. But there are bad beats in the NFL, more this year than I've seen in the past. This is really – there's been a bunch, but the third one that kind of comes to mind, the first one was when Andy Reid didn't kick that field goal late in the game with 5 minutes to play. It would have pushed the game over with Kansas City. I don't know why he didn't do that. He just ran right into the ground on fourth down. The second one was the Giants coming back with that 2-point conversion against Atlanta on Monday night. Like, that was out of nowhere. And then the worst one of all, if you took the Rams, it was Gurley taking the knee, but we had Green Bay.
We did have Green Bay. And I'll tell you what, that to me was like karma for Ty Montgomery fumbling the football and not giving Aaron Rodgers the opportunity to march down the field for that final drive.
I have a prediction. I predict the Packers are going to trade Ty Montgomery.
Good call. Where do you think they're going to trade him to, Craig?
The Ravens?
You know why? So that every Alex Collins owner in fantasy can just take it right.
It's been a nightmare for me with him this year.
It's like, boom.
It's been a bad call for me with Collins, man. That was somebody I was invested in.
It was brutal. So was I. In any event, though, so Gurley takes the knee. The Packers cover the spread.
What
we get a win.
That was actually, later in the day. But that was one of the wins. One of the other wins was Pittsburgh over Cleveland, which was a phenomenal play. There was really a threat for like the first quarter, and then Cleveland became Cleveland again, and that was the end of the story. And in fact, historically speaking, and we'll get to this coming up when we talk about it, there is some data that points to the possibility of Cleveland having a good week this week based on the coach being fired. So, I don't know if you believe in that sort of stuff, but there is a narrative playing out that way. But a very easy pick was Pittsburgh, and I could probably make the argument of the 5 picks that we had and used, that was probably the best one.
You don't want to go into Cleveland into next week thinking Cleveland. I'm just telling you flat out. Because if you say that, then that means that you're dogging Pat Mahomes, and he's the greatest quarterback to ever take the field.
The line is 8. It hasn't really moved. Let me give you, before we get into this, let me just give you, since we're talking about the data on this. Okay, so in 2017, the Giants fired Ben McAdoo last year, and they did not cover. The following week. Mm-hmm. In 2016, the Rams fired Jeff Fisher in season, and they did not cover. So that's 0-2 against the spread. Previous to that, Chip Kelly in 2015 fired. Ken Wisenhunt, 2015 fired. Joe Philbin, 2015 fired. Dennis Allen from the Raiders in 14. Haley from the Chiefs in 11. And the Dolphins fired Sperano in 11. All wins.
So that was 6? So it's 6-2?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Actually, same season, Del Rio fired, not a cover. I don't know that you can use data in the NFL, Howard, going back 8 years. I don't know that it's still that relevant. But at least what we could do in the last few years, the last 2 years, is say that it hasn't worked. But previous to that, there's a pretty strong backing as to the team rally. I don't know. What do you think? The team rallies. They feel like they want to do it for the new coach. Like, I guess there's something to be said for that. I guess they didn't like Fisher or McAdoo, but I could also make the claim that both those coaches were pretty horrific. Wisenhunt did take his team to a Super Bowl, correct? Philbin was a 500 coach, correct? Chip Kelly did have early success with the Eagles. McAdoo and Fisher did nothing with those two teams, right? With the Rams and Giants, 0, right?
Correct. It's Jeff Fisher. Everything's a 0.
So I don't know how you feel about it, but we'll get into that either way. Okay, so the first pick was we talked about Green Bay. The second pick was Pittsburgh.
Right. But let me ask you here, because going along with this whole firing coach narratives here brings us to another pick that we made.
Right.
And that was the Arizona Cardinals. And come on, they fired Mike LaFleur.
Coordinator. Yeah.
They fired their coordinator. They come back. They cover the spread.
They could not have looked worse through 3 quarters. It was as if I was watching the worst team, worse than Buffalo in the NFL. I have no idea, honestly, how that happened.
It was a horror show.
And not only that, but in a very important fantasy league that I have, I was up like 40 points going into the fourth quarter of that game with a guy who literally started Fitzgerald and Kirk. I'm like, oh, this is like the easiest win ever. And we lost. Like, I don't know how that happened. I was happy for us that we hit it in the super contest. But I have no explanation for that except for it's one of those games where I thought it would be a coin flip going in. You really liked Arizona. And Arizona pulled out the win there in the end. So
I'll tell you what it was. Again, when your brand new offensive coordinator comes out and says flat out, we have to get the ball to Larry Fitzgerald a lot more than what we're doing right now.
3 quarters. They didn't do anything. They were getting crushed.
Well, because they're not a good football team. But when you look at the targets by the end, who did they rely on? They relied on Larry Fitzgerald.
When they were down 1 million points. Listen, either way, a win is a win.
It was not 1 million points.
I gotta tell you, but here's the question. Now, look, we always look at this and we approach this as it's week to week, and we eliminate what we've seen the previous week. It doesn't count. But that being said, do you feel confident moving forward taking Arizona in spots?
No, they're on a bye this week, so we don't have to worry about it.
No, but moving forward, dude, I don't know that I could.
No, they're a team that you target against, but you know what? So are the Niners. The Niners are another team that you target against.
That's true. Who is this quarterback supposedly starting for them this week, by the way?
Nick Mullins, an undrafted free agent.
I know a lot about college football, too. So
Undrafted free agent out of Southern Mississippi.
Never heard of the guy.
There you go.
Never heard of the guy.
Mick Mullins.
The third pick was Kansas City. We had a chance in that game. It wasn't a bad pick. It wasn't a good pick. Denver was the right side. Denver was very competitive in this game. They backdoored Kansas City with a late field goal. It was very obvious late in the game either Denver was going to score a touchdown or they were going to kick a field goal, and they were going to cover that 10 points. Denver has since traded Thomas. They're going to be very hard to side with moving forward. I personally don't like the Broncos. It was one of my teams to go against most of the season, but I got to give them credit and just take an L. If you had Kansas City and you're like, oh, they backdoored me, not really. Denver played well. They played well in that game. They played well enough to cover. Kansas City's defense is still suspect. They have to go up by like 40 on you to cover, it looks like, and that was a loss. So we were 3-1 at that point. Is that
3-1 at that point? Yep, absolutely. Now, I mean, listen, you said it before, and I agreed with you. Laying 10 points is a tough thing to do in the NFL. And the bottom line is, and we even said that. We said, we're laying the points because sometimes you just got to go out there and you just got to take a shot at it.
And even I know that Buffalo played horrible Monday night, but Buffalo had a very good chance to cover that game too. It's so dangerous to lay more than a touchdown in the NFL because one score by the other team, a lucky bounce, you're just better off taking the dog. So that was the fourth game Green Bay. Did we hit that already, or did I miss one? The Colts. The Colts.
The Colts. Yeah, that's the other game that we had.
Against the Raiders. What would I say about the Raiders? The Raiders are probably going to play a lot of overs. Their defense is completely quit. Their offense looks a little bit better from what I saw. I thought Carr did a better job getting the ball down the field to Cook. I do think, I know you laughed. I do think Doug Martin's going to be okay there. He showed a little bit. I think he'll be all right. I think you give him the ball in the one, he'll score some touchdowns. I don't think he's a bust. I think he'll help. I don't know if he'll be as good as Lynch, but between him and Richard and Cook, I don't know who their other receivers are. Bryant, I guess. I didn't see him targeted much, but I thought Carr played better. Their offensive line played okay. The Colts' offensive line is the number one in the NFL. The Colts look great running the ball. And I don't know what happened, but Marlon Mack is now a stud there. He controls the clock. He's got these wide open gaps, and he's fast too. The Colts are going to cover a lot of spreads this year. They're probably going to give up a lot of points too. I don't think their defense is that good, but Luck looks like he's all the way back. It's a shame they got off to such a tough start. They're probably an 8-8 team, but I would guess at the end of the season against the spread, they'll be better than they are.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you completely. Listen, their secondary is very suspect, very porous. To see the Raiders put up some points on them, that didn't surprise me. It's the offense, and it really is. And Marlon Mack is a solid running back. He's a good 3-down back, too. He can catch passes out in the flat, and he can pass block as well. The reason that Marlon Mack, though, is having all this success, also, you can't ignore the fact that Andrew Luck is healthy. Andrew Luck is throwing the ball well. And defenses they have to play the pass when you've got Andrew Luck, all of his tight ends, he's working them. You got T.Y. Hilton there as well. You got some good complementary receivers, nobody great, but complementary receivers in a guy like Chester Rogers or a guy like Ryan Grant. They don't need to be gangbusters, but what that does is that it prevents defenses from really pushing forward and trying to cheat and get and stuff the run like that. And that's where we're going to end up finding a lot of success moving forward with the Colts, just looking at the spreads and then looking at the teams who they're facing and whether or not they're just going to be able to take advantage defensively.
Yeah, it wasn't a great sign that they gave up so many points defensively, but again, when I picture Andrew Luck in the past and his injury too, it's running for his life. And he's had time in games that I've seen this season. In fact, it's really strange to me that they got pounded by the Jets the way that they did. But again, it just goes to show you that week to week, you don't know which team is going to show up in the NFL. It's really hard to predict. And by the way, if the Colts in that game against Houston a few weeks ago don't go for it with Frank Reich on their own 40, and then Houston kicks the field goal and wins, maybe Houston has another, or maybe Indy has another win on their schedule. Right now, Houston is the hot team. I can't believe it. I don't think they're any good, but they're the hot team right now in the NFL. And Howard, they made a trade today to get Demaryius Thomas, and they basically looked at it a couple of different ways, I think, Howard. Houston says to themselves, okay, we'll get Demaryius Thomas, will also take him away from our opponent this week. It's a really interesting strategy how if you don't have to give up that much and you're just trying to buy a win, and sometimes you can even do that in fantasy. You look at your opponent, you take that player away. It's a really interesting concept. I wonder if that factored all into this because they play each other this week, and the line is even at Denver.
Oh, really? I'm looking at Denver by 2.5 right now.
No, it's even right now. It's even. They took those points away. you can't have any points with Houston after Denver's trading away their team. Denver traded 2 guys today, right? They traded
just the one. Just the one. But,
okay.
Again, when you lose a guy like Demaryius Thomas, yeah, it hurts, but this is also promoting Cortland Sutton into a much larger role.
Nice. Yeah, he's looked good. Good red zone target.
Yeah, definitely. He's got good height. He's got good hands. Average speed. I think Sutton's a guy who definitely helps out here. That's the line that I want to. I'm being curious to see if that line moves at all. Let's wrap it up with a couple of NFL games where we're looking at some of the lines. Anything in particular you're loving on? We talked Kansas City, Cleveland already. KC's 8.5 point.
Well, first of all, I think we would take Oakland Thursday night. Is that right? Against San Francisco plus the points. Which way would you go in that one? Let's get that out of the way.
Yeah, I would take Oakland. I would. I mean,
how can the 49ers lay any points? Do you know anything about this quarterback?
I don't know anything about Nick Mullins, and that's the interesting aspect.
Maybe he's good. Is there a chance of that?
Well, just the whole surprise. Is he going to be that much worse than C.J. Beathard?
I don't know the answer to that.
Well,
I don't know.
There you go, because Beathard really isn't that good either. Yeah, it's a very tough game to handicap.
It is, but Oakland was right there until Martin fumbled at the end of that game against the Colts. So I kind of lean Oakland here and taking the points, but I mean, there's a reason the line is 3. Anyway, it's a horrible game. Baltimore, Pittsburgh, no home field advantage for the Ravens. All of a sudden, they fell back to earth. The Steelers are playing phenomenal, and they're getting 3 points at Baltimore. Roethlisberger has not played well at Baltimore. So the temptation that you may have to ride Roethlisberger, you got to go back and look historically. He is stunk there. There's a reason why Baltimore is favored. But that being said, Pittsburgh's been great to us this season. The Bears are 9.5 at Buffalo. It was 8.5 when they announced Peterman was started. I guess it went to 9.5. The Bears. Minnesota disappointed me big on Sunday night. You love the Saints. I love Minnesota. That was a terrible call by me. Good by you. Detroit let me down. Minnesota's -5 against Detroit. Carolina -7 at Tampa. Tampa will start Fitzpatrick. Carolina is one of those teams that if you go down, you're in big trouble against them. Philadelphia was up on them 17-0. Carolina came all the way back. Carolina last week throttled Baltimore. They're starting to play well, and I don't know what to make from Tampa. The interesting game that I look at here, I don't know if it'll be a pick for me, but I would guess, and I'm not positive by this, but I would guess, Howard, that by the time Sunday happens, will Atlanta still be getting 1.5 against Washington, at Washington?
I mean,
you trust Washington?
No. I look, this is the most unusual line for me, simply because Atlanta's offense is so potent and Washington's offense is so plodding. You can't sit there and
I just can't see
Alex Smith, his receivers are always banged up. He's not using Jordan Reed. Adrian Peterson, yeah, that's great. But I mean, am I going to match him up? I mean, Atlanta's run defense is soft. Atlanta's whole defense is soft.
But Peterson, it's like, I mean, how far do you go with the trust factor with him? And he basically carried that team to the cover against the Giants. So anyway, I saw this line and I thought to myself, by the time it goes off, Washington will be pick'em.
I think so too. Although Washington just picked up Clinton Dix to start their new safety now, so it definitely shores. Listen, it shores up the pass defense.
Wasn't he on Green Bay at one point?
Yeah, he was with Green Bay. Yeah. So they're getting him to shore up, join him with Josh Norman in the secondary. And when you look at Atlanta, I mean, listen, Atlanta's all about the pass right now. Washington's run defense is good. It's solid. It's not the best in the world, but it's definitely solid. And then when you look and you say, okay, Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, Mohamed Sanu, We got Josh Norman. Clinton Dix is floating around there, and all of a sudden it does change things up. I still wouldn't be surprised, though, if it becomes a pick 'em. Very surprised to see Atlanta even as an underdog here.
Me too. If this one goes to 3 points, I got to take Atlanta. I just
Well, you know what the problem is, though. Also, look at Matt Ryan's numbers on the road.
They're horrible. Yeah,
they're atrocious. He's like this year's Ben Roethlisberger.
Yeah, it is part of it. It is a weird line. It makes me think that the right line is Washington, but it doesn't matter because all the early games, Howard will end on this. All the early games are nothing as compared to the late games. The 4 o'clock Eastern, 1 o'clock Pacific game, Rams Saints. I mean, I don't have an opinion yet on it. It's going to be an awesome game. These two teams are really good. The Saints have been phenomenal, both offensively and defensively. They did a great job against Minnesota. The Rams I do not see as a Super Bowl contender. I think they'll lose in the playoffs because I don't think they have enough defense, but I think they'll go 14-2 or 15-1. That's a phenomenal game. And then Green Bay, New England at night. And by the way, New Orleans -2 at home. And then New England, Green Bay. Man, I mean, two great games in the NFL. It's kind of hard sometimes to find, one game that's really a great game. And we got two really good ones this week. So you're going to Vegas at the right time. Those are some fun games to watch.
Well, it's definitely going to be a lot of fun staying the extra day on Sunday. Just because I am. 4 straight nights of fish shows. And a Sunday in the sports book.
It'll be fun. I'll miss you Friday night, so we'll have to communicate.
Oh, don't worry. I'll be making my picks there. I'm going to text you and be like, give me Seattle. Laying the 1.5 on the Chargers. Come on, baby. Come on.
Seattle look good, man. I don't know what's going on with them, but they look good against Detroit, too.
I told you what was going on with them.
I don't get it. Why? How is this happening? They're not good.
Because they got a key offensive lineman back. And what they realized, I'm getting like buzzed here at the tower, all these flies, is the perils of living near a hay farm. In any event, you look at what Seattle's been doing, and they've been, seriously, they're running backs. Chris Carson, you splash in Rashad Penny, Mike Davis. They haven't had fewer than 30 carries between them. And it's just opening everything up for the play action for Russell Wilson, who's got 9 touchdowns to 1 interception over his last 3 games. They're going run first mentality here, and it's working. It's working wonders.
Right.
And if the Chargers don't have Joey Bosa, then we got to go with the Seahawks.
Let me ask you this before we go. Was there any trade made today that means anything in terms of the spreads you think this weekend? I saw briefly. I've been entrenched in baseball. There's been some baseball news, breaking news, some stuff today. But I saw Thomas traded. I saw Tate traded. Golden Tate. Does that move the needles at all?
No, he went from Detroit to Philadelphia. So, I mean, that's going to help the Eagles, who are on a bye this week anyway, so it doesn't really matter for them. Detroit against Minnesota, a division game, and they say they're tanking. I don't know. It's going to be an interesting situation.
Okay. So nothing significant then today?
No, nothing significant there. Jacksonville shored up their defense a little bit with another guy, like I said, Clinton Dix. He moves on. But, yeah, no, nothing else.
All right, well, listen, have a good trip.
Well, thanks very much, man. I'll be texting you regularly. Big thanks to Steve Pimentel for doing our producing work here today. Always a pleasure getting to work with him. For Craig Mish, I'm Howard Bender. Thanks for tuning into the Wager Alarm live stream. We'll catch you again this Friday.